So today I'm going to talk about my 5 favorite desktop environments for Linux. So we're going to start in 5th place and work our way up. So in 5th place we have XFCE. XFCE is in 5th place as it offers the lightest and okayish looking desktop out there. It usually sits around like 800, 900 megs of RAM when idle, and it's okayish customizable. You can customize the panel, the windows, but it looks kind of bland and it doesn't appear as flashy as any of the other desktops, and that's why it's in 5th place. Moving on to 4th place, we have Gnome 40. Now, the reason why I say Gnome 40 instead of anything else is that Gnome 40 actually feels like it has a purpose and it knows what it's doing. Other versions of Gnome, like Gnome 3.38, would have all of their buttons in random places. You would have the activities bar, which showed you the dock, and then you would press on the dock to get all of your apps. So now it's a lot simpler. You just have your activity and then you have everything else. Because usually you would see something like Ubuntu where you have your dock, your activities bar, which shows you like a pop-up thing with all of your windows, and then you press on the dock to get all of your applications, and it is really, really messy, and I don't like Gnome 3. But Gnome 40 solves all of that with everything in a unified place. And Gnome takes the 4th place because it's a lot more customizable than XFCE with extensions. If you don't like the look of something, there's probably an extension for that. If you don't like the dock, you can do something like dash to panel, dash to dock, rounded dock, compiz. There's lots of things out there that you could do with Gnome to make it look better. Moving on to 3rd place, we have Sway or i3. I'm going to group these together because they're fundamentally the same. They're really just tiling window managers. And the reason why I put them in 3rd is how light they are, how fast they are, and that's really it, because otherwise you'd have a very steep learning curve and it's really hard to learn. It looks kind of bad unless you have like the Manjaro version of them. The Manjaro version of them are okay, but otherwise they're only good because they're light and they're fast. And they're light, like really light, around 500, 600 megabytes of RAM on idle. And you can do things really fast, like the D menu. You could basically navigate through the whole OS without ever touching the mouse, which is something that I love because my mouse and my keyboard are pretty far away, and I don't like the switching from my mouse, keyboard. It really makes your hand tired after a while. So Sway can just make it so that you don't have to drag around windows, you don't have to hit the start button. Everything can be done on the keyboard, and most people will do it on the keyboard. Moving on to 2nd place, we have Elementary OS. Elementary OS is in 2nd place because I am a Mac user. I'm currently only experimenting with Linux, and I love the fact that Elementary OS looks polished. It's the most polished desktop out of them. It has its own set of guidelines that you need to do when you're designing your app, just like Apple does. And each app looks like it belongs on the Elementary/Pantheon desktop. The only reason it's not in 1st place is because how hard it is to install. Any other desktop, you could just do something like sudo pacman-s gnome or sudo pacman-s xfce. Most of the time, Pantheon isn't included in the main repos, so you have to add it, and especially on things like Ubuntu, it's really hard to add repos now, and it's a pain in the butt because the app goes, oh, that's not a real repo, you can't do that. And then it's really hard, except for Fedora, which it comes with DNF, but otherwise than that, Elementary is good, but it's hard to install. Finally, in the 1st place, we have KDE Plasma. KDE Plasma basically takes all of the other ones and clumps it together to become a jack of all trades. It looks really good. It has all that transparency, glass things, and it's really fast. I would say sitting around like basically around 900 megabytes to a gig idle around XFCE zone, so it beats out XFCE, and it's really customizable. All the panels, you could change it. You can install Latte Dock, which is also made by the KDE team, and change it into a macOS layout. You could basically do anything you want with KDE. It's amazingly easy to learn, and it is beautiful. And that's why KDE is my favorite desktop here on Linux.